You're listening to Seek Travel Ride, a podcast all about taking incredible bike adventures. And if you love the conversations that you hear on the podcast, you can experience them live. Join me in London on May 14 and 15 for Beyond the Bike. It's going to be a special night of adventure cycling stories, bike adventure film screenings, and a live Q&A with a panel of previous podcast guests. Tickets are on sale now. They will sell out fast. So make sure to grab yours at the link in the podcast show notes in your podcast player app. Today's show sponsor is Old Man Mountain. If you're into bike adventures, you need to strap gear on your bike. Old Man Mountain have the right equipment to get you there on your bike travel journey. Check out their new product line, Hemlock Bag with Flip Cages. Check them out at oldmanmountain.com. Support the brands that support the podcast. And now, let's listen to today's episode. Hello everyone, Bella Malloy here, host of Seek Travel Ride. Welcome back to another midweek mini episode of the podcast where I aim to fuel your wanderlust for bike adventures. I'm super excited this week because I have another audio update from our intrepid bike adventurer Rebecca Gross. Fans of the show will know that we are tracking Rebecca's incredible bike journey, which she's currently taking with her partner Harvey. They left in the first week of March from their home in Austria for their very first long-distance bike adventure, and their destination is the Pamirs. We have been featuring Rebecca's story from before she left and have had our first update shared a few weeks ago. And today I am bringing you a fresh update from Rebecca. I can tell you now that she's made it across Europe and this update is coming to us from Turkey. So let's see what it's been like for Rebecca on the road and what she has to say.
I want to share one day of my trip, and this is our first day here in Turkey. So we took a ferry from Athens to Rhodes. And we already knew that bad weather would await us. So when we came to Rhodes, we already heard that some ferries got cancelled to Fethiye, Turkey, where we wanted to go. But we were still hoping that ours wouldn't got cancelled. So we had like half a day in Rhodes and wanted to explore the island and see a bit of the city. But all of a sudden, it started pouring like out of buckets. It was raining so heavily that immediately, in minutes, the streets turned into rivers. So we somehow managed to get to the harbor, and luckily our ferry went to Fethiye. But probably it wasn't a good idea to eat a whole chocolate bar before entering the ferry, because it was quite wavy and I get really fast seasick. But luckily the chocolate bar stayed inside my stomach and we made it safe to Fethiye. So we went to the hotel and immediately checked the weather forecast for the next days. And what we saw, we were not very happy about it. It seemed like it would rain for the next 3 or 4 days very heavily. And being on a bike, this is definitely not something we want to have. So our idea was to start very early because it seemed like it would be dry until midday. So the next day we woke up at 6, started having breakfast and were almost ready to go when it started raining very, very heavy. So our plan was actually cancelled. We went back to bed and thought we should do a bit of brainstorming and check our options we have. So there would have been either the option of staying the next few days in Fethiye and wait for a better weather. But after being in Athens and on the ferry, we were really eager to cycle again. So this wasn't actually an option. The next one would have been taking a bus. We were checking the bus and everything and saw there are buses running. But we already took a bus in Greece to escape the bad weather. And it made us feel like we are cheating and we definitely don't want to reach the Pamirs by bus. And we always wanted to explore Turkey. So this wasn't either an option. So the only option we had was going fully into adventure mode and put on our rain clothes and start cycling. And this is what we did. We just waited a bit until the weather calms down a bit. And so when it almost wasn't raining anymore, we started cycling. So the first 20 kilometers were along a main road, which was very good for cycling. And the rain almost stopped when we came to a gas station where we had to take another decision. And at this moment, we actually didn't realize that this tiny decision would change the whole day. So we were eating baklava, which is always good when we have to take a decision. And we were discussing either going for the main road, because if it's raining, we are always actually happy to cycle along a main road because it's faster and we reach the destination quite fast. And the other option was to follow our planned route, which would go into the mountains with one steep climb into a national park. But with the rain, we weren't quite sure if this is a good idea and if we would even see mountains with all the clouds. So we discussed a bit, but we definitely wanted to have adventure and we didn't want to go for the main road because it is boring, you have to say. And so we again took the adventurous decision to go into the mountains no matter which weather there will be. So we were cycling a few kilometers when we turned into the valley where we had the steep climb. And all of a sudden, the rain stopped, there were blue skies, and the sun came out. It really felt like Mother Nature is telling us that this was the right decision. We were super happy, we were stoked, we were full of adrenaline, and we just couldn't believe our eyes. So we were cycling up this very steep hill until the top, and we actually didn't know what would await us there. At the top, there was a huge Roman and Greek ruin with huge graves inside the rock. We were amazed and it was breathtaking. We just didn't expect that, and it was a huge surprise. And again, it was like a confirmation that we took the right decision. So after having a bit of a lunch there, we just had to cycle down. This is when a huge thunderstorm began, but luckily we were so fast in cycling down that we could escape it very fast. And in 2 minutes, all our clothes got dry again because the sun is already really strong here. And that was the moment where the next surprise happened. We passed a sign which said waterfall in 1 kilometer. And actually the photo on the sign wasn't very promising. It was like a super small waterfall. But since we were like so positive and happy, we said, okay, let's go for this waterfall. We cycled this kilometer and we had to go down a lot of stairs. And we were just hoping that it would be worth it because our legs were already a bit tired. So we got down when we came to a river. And that's where a really cool hike began. We had to take off our shoes and hike through the river and later through like a very green jungle and until we reached the waterfall. And it was huge because of all the rainfall. It had so much water and we really felt like being on Hawaii. A huge waterfall inside a jungle. This just couldn't be Turkey. So we were really, really impressed and again super happy that we took this decision. And after this little escape to Hawaii, we finally cycled to a canyon, which always was planned. And once we got there, we entered the canyon and we never thought it would be so huge, but it was like immense. There were really, really big walls and they were so beautiful and the water was so clear. We were just amazed again. So we walked there a bit, we relaxed a bit beside the canyon and walked out again. And that's when Javi said, "Are you still motivated and spontaneous enough to go for a hike?" And since this day was already so good and I really love hiking, I said, yes, of course. And that's when we did a small hike to a viewpoint above the canyon. And it was again the best decision we could take this day. We were all by ourselves in pristine nature. It was so beautiful. We just couldn't believe our eyes where we are. So once we reached the top and we got to the viewpoint, we saw this huge canyon from above with small waterfalls, and at the back of everything, there were snow-capped mountains. And we just again thought, where are we? We didn't know that Turkey looks like this. Our mind was blown away. We couldn't be happier this day. So we enjoyed the surrounding a bit and hiked down and got to our bikes and said we will cycle a few kilometers more. And that's when we wanted to start looking for a camp spot. And there were like hundreds of perfect camp spots in beautiful nature, beside rivers, under trees, everything you could ask for. But the problem was the forecast said it would rain. So that's when we really prefer to have a bit of a shelter or a roof to put the tent under, and that the bikes would stay dry and we don't have to put the wet tent the next morning inside the backpack. So we were looking for a shelter or a roof, and that's when I really thought, no, this perfect day does not have a perfect ending. And I was already really sad. And then I thought, no, I should trust the process, because if there is one thing I learned in this month of bikepacking is if we put a lot of pressure in looking for a camp spot, you will never find one, because then you're just looking for the most perfect spot, which does not exist. So I tried to put all the pressure away and trust the process. And we were going and going until we found the most bizarre camping spot ever. It was so weird. We just couldn't believe our eyes. Inside some agricultural fields, there were concrete tunnels. They were like 30 or 40 meters long and like 3 meters high, made out of concrete, like a tunnel or a bunker. I don't know how to explain that, but it was very bizarre. It was so weird. And it felt like someone had put it there just for us to have a safe camping spot. And we went there. It was empty. No one was there. It was just so perfect. There was no wind. It was dry. It was actually warm. We couldn't ask for a better camp spot. So we sat outside the tunnel, had dinner. That's when were some shepherds with their sheep and goats passed. And they tried to tell us, at least that's what we thought, that it's okay that we can stay inside there. It was even a better feeling that the people from there told us it's okay. Or at least we think they told us it is okay. It is funny because sometimes they try to talk Turkish to Javi, but he doesn't understand it. But at least they try. Yeah, we got inside this concrete tunnel and we had a really comfortable and warm night. And we were talking about this the next day, how one tiny decision, the one at the gas station where we could either take the route into the mountains or the main road, can change a whole day and actually a whole experience, because this was our first day in Turkey. And I always think the first day is very important. If it's a positive experience, you feel different. You feel positive, happy. You just have a very different view for everything. So we couldn't have asked for a better start here in Asia. We are in an Airbnb now because it's so stormy, and of course, it was headwind. Like, if this would have been tailwind, I don't know, probably we would have been here in an hour instead of like 4 hours. Oh, this headwind is just very intense. And yeah, tomorrow I think it's going to rain a lot. But if we are as lucky as the last days, there won't be rain. But tomorrow probably we won't be so lucky. But I don't know. It's okay. Every kilometer without rain feels like we are winners. And yeah, we definitely are winners here in Turkey.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Oh my gosh, there's so much in this update I'd love to dig into. Firstly, something I really remember starkly when we first got together and spoke was how you told me that you were a ultra planner and you liked knowing everything in advance and figuring out what the route was going to be, but you knew it was going to be a challenge that you needed to stay flexible. And I feel this entire update is a tribute to that. The other thing I absolutely loved was your little quip that baklava makes everything better. And all decisions should be made over baklava. I really love that part. As a food lover, how could I not mention food on the podcast, right? But also just the idea that you decided you wanted to take the adventurous route, that you and Harvey had felt that you'd already taken enough buses and it was time to just get out there on the road regardless of the weather conditions. And it sounded like you had some amazing serendipitous moments occur there because of those decisions that you made. Taking the adventurous mountain route, not being sure whether you'd see the mountains at the summit or not with all the cloud, but getting up there and seeing blue sky, the walk through that gorge, the rainstorm which contributed to the waterfall being even more spectacular than normal. And then right at the end, you mentioned how you know that sometimes you just have to trust that things will work out, because if you try too hard, and this was in reference to finding a wild camp spot, trying too hard means that you're going to look for something perfect and not see something that will do. And it was amazing where you ended up. I'm really trying hard to picture what that would have been like. Yeah, absolutely incredible. I'm sorry that you had to battle some headwinds, and I know since these updates come through that you've also had some rain. And even more exciting for me, you've met up with our awesome adventurer, Claire Wyatt. Hello, Claire. Claire's been headed in the other direction, listeners. She's working her way back to the UK, having left Mongolia, and Claire actually also just recently tipped over the 10,000 kilometre mark. Absolutely incredible. I'm super stoked to know that Rebecca, Harvey and Claire all were able to meet up on the road, no doubt share and swap stories and give each other route advice as well. And listeners, keep your eye out on these midweek episodes to come, because I will continue sharing these awesome audio updates from Rebecca. And we're going to track her journey all the way across the Pamirs. Now, listeners, last week I mentioned about the word adventure and what taking a bike adventure means, and did it need to be hard to be an adventure? And I put a call out on my Instagram channel. Our account there is Seek Travel Ride. And I put a call out to people there to tell me, what does an adventure mean to you? And I got a lot of responses, which I'm happy to be sharing with you today. The first one comes from La Volta, and you said, adventure is freedom, discovery, unknown landscapes, and experiencing the nature in a direct way. Ooh, I like that. And I really love that sense of adventure being discovering something as well. Essaya says, being outside of my comfort zone and trying new things. Oh, I really love that. And a special shout out to you as well, because I know that you are recovering at the moment in Colombia after a pretty vicious dog attack. So wishing you a super speedy recovery there as well. Previous guest of the podcast, Jamie Hargreaves, who, shout out to you, Jamie. You've just successfully taken your bike up to Everest Base Camp, joined by Malachi there. Anyway, Jamie says, adventure is a disregard of order in search of chaos. That is such an apt answer for you, Jamie, knowing the way that you are taking adventures on. Gravel Odyssey in Sweden says, out of the ordinary, exploring and testing something new for me, whatever that may be. That notion of taking on something that you've never done before, I really like that. Okay, I am going to try not to butcher your name, but it is Positiviset Pioritket. I know I've got that wrong, and I really apologise to you. You're an awesome superfan from Finland, and you said it's more of a mindset than numbers, because even in the remote areas, you are in someone's backyard. And I had a bit of a back and forth conversation with this one, and you also wanted to point out the notion that even in the remote areas, you know, you're in an area where Indigenous people call home, and so that is an adventure too. And I really like that as well. Then I have Oscar J. Donovan, and you said adventure is going far enough away from home that uncles start offering you cigarettes to smoke with them. I really laughed when I saw that one come through, Oscar. That was hilarious, and I really enjoyed seeing that one. Lastly, I have superfan Laura Bastioli, and Laura says, adventure is a continuous open dialogue between myself and the unknown. It's the act of stepping beyond the familiar, not only geographically speaking, but also in thought, experience, and perception. Adventure doesn't need to be confined to big expeditions. An adventure can be found also in the silence of contemplation or in the resilience to endure. At this stage of my life, adventure is the art of living dynamically, refusing to be static, and being aware that every journey, whether it's physical or not, will bring a transformation within myself and being able to live with it. I really liked that message, Laura, which you sent me. It was super well thought out, and I could jive with pretty much all of that as well. And then Laura also then went out to say, I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank you for the amazing podcast. You're a pretty talented and passionate host. The episodes have filled many of what could have been empty night shifts at work, and have also kept on inspiring and reminding me on putting myself out there. Thank you very much. Oh, Laura, thank you very much. I absolutely love it when I get messages from superfans like yourself. I'm super happy that I can keep you company on those night shifts. And no doubt hearing the stories of our guests is stoking your fuel and wanderlust fire as well. Now, a special shout out to those of you who are London-based or live close by, or if you have friends who are in London or live close by, come and see me and an awesome lineup of guests as I bring to you Beyond the Bike. We've got 2 live shows. Our venue is Peckham Levels, and we're coming to you on the 14th and 15th of May. It's a collaboration between previous podcast guest Jude Krewald and myself, and we are super excited to bring you a night filled of adventure cycling. Night 1, we will be joined by Rob McLennan and Nikki Ray, 2 amazing adventurers who are going to share their stories with you. Night 2, we feature the awesome Lizzie Jenkins and also Charlie Walker. So both nights you'll have 4 of us there as panel speakers. We're going to be talking all things adventure cycling. We have 2 film screenings. Jude's film Alone Across Gola is being shown on both nights. And then we're rounding off the evening with a audience Q&A session. So you can ask our guests and maybe even me some questions of your own. There are still just a few early bird tickets left, so hit the link in the podcast show notes or head to Eventbrite, search Beyond the Bike in London, 14th and 15th of May. Get your tickets, come to one night or come to both. I cannot wait to see you there. And lastly, coming up to my favourite part of the midweek episodes, and that's where I get to shout out to you, my awesome super fans, for buying me a coffee. I love it when I get these messages come through. Firstly, I've got Philip who says, thanks for the enthusiasm and the dreams. It gets me through work and winter. Oh, thank you, Philip. I'm happy to say that hopefully the worst of winter is done with, and hopefully no false springs. Hopefully proper spring arrives for you and you can get out there on your bike, fueled by some inspiring guest stories, no doubt. Thank you for buying me a coffee. And then I have Steve, and he has said, hi Bella, thanks for keeping me company on my drive to work each day. It's much more inspiring than listening to the radio. It's so hard listening to all your adventurers who spend months on the road when all I can get is a maximum 3-week vacation. Nevertheless, I have managed my own mini adventures. I've been riding back from Romania to the UK in 2023 and Morocco to the UK in 2024, raising over £10,000 for my local dog rescue in the process. This year I'm not sure if I'm going to get a decent adventure undertaken, but if I do, it'll be on blog.goingtothedogs.co.uk. Keep the podcast episodes coming and save me from that morning DJ. Thank you, Steve. Steve, you're an absolute legend. Thank you so much for supporting me and the podcast and buying me some virtual coffees. And wow, your adventures sound awesome. Romania to the UK and then Morocco to the UK. And well done as well for raising so much money for your local dog rescue too. You're an absolute legend. And listeners, if you would like to do as Philip and Steve have done, you can also shout me some virtual coffees. Just head to buymeacoffee.com/Seek Travel Ride. Buy me some virtual brews, but most importantly, leave me an awesome message and let me know what is it that you love about the podcast so much and where is your next bike adventure journey going to be. Until the next episode, I'm Bella Malloy. Thanks for listening. And before you go, don't forget, Beyond the Bike is happening soon in London on May 14 and 15. It's going to be an incredible night of stories, film, and adventure cycling insights with some of the most inspiring guests from the podcast. Tickets are available now, but they're not going to last. So head to the link in the show notes, grab yours, come to one night, or if you're a super fan, come to both. Grab your ticket before they're gone, and I hope to see you there. Before you go, just another shout out to our show sponsor, Old Man Mountain, and their new Hemlock bags with flip cages. They're fork-mounted packs which will attach securely with a hook and lever flip, ensuring a stable, rattle-free ride and easy removal. They're built for durability, they're ideal for your bikepacking adventures. Check them out at our custom link, oldmanmountain.com/Seek Travel Ride, or simply click the link in the show notes. Happy riding!